Hello everyone, my name is Jason and this is Netminder Review. So let's talk a little Vancouver Canucks. Jacob Markstrom has been injured. It has been revealed that Jacob Markstrom was injured in the game against Boston, in which Vancouver won 9-3. Markstrom flew with the team to Montreal for their game that is going to be against Montreal tomorrow. And once he got there, realized, I suppose, that his knee was injured, I guess worse than he had thought, and he had an MRI in Montreal. He flew back to Vancouver, where he will be meeting with doctors, Vancouver doctors, on Wednesday. And it remains to be seen exactly what the timetable is for his return, but it is likely that he will miss 3 to 4 weeks, if not more. Now, the question becomes, of course, this: can Vancouver survive without Jacob Markstrom? Jacob Markstrom has been very strong for the Canucks, and now they're going to have to turn to Thatcher Demko. And will Thatcher Demko be able to hold on and play well enough that he can do for the Canucks what they're going to need to maintain a playoff spot? And hopefully Markstrom will be back before the playoffs, and maybe even with a week to spare before the playoffs, so that he can get in the last 5 or 6 games or so. So let's consider really 2 playoff scenarios for Vancouver. One is their ability to hold on to third place in the Pacific. They currently have third place in the Pacific. They have 72 points in 61 games. And so I'm not really going to talk about any thought of them moving up and catching Edmonton or Vegas. I'm not saying they can't, but I'm looking at this more from a perspective of holding on to a playoff spot as opposed to moving forward. Maybe they'll win a bunch of games, move forward, pass Edmonton, maybe even take first place, and that would be great for them. But let's just look at this from the standpoint of, can they hold on to third place? And in order to do so, they would have to fight off Calgary and Arizona. Now, right now, Calgary is in 4th place in the division with 70 points, but they've played 63 games. So Vancouver has 2 games in hand on Calgary, and they have, 2 more points. So Calgary in the month of February has played 11 games and they've only won 5. So they're really just kind of playing 500, sub 500 hockey right now. And so I don't see them as a massive threat unless they go on a pretty good run. Vancouver doesn't have to do much more than play 500 hockey themselves to hold off Calgary. What about Arizona? Well, Arizona has 70 points also, just like Calgary, but they've played 65 games, 4 more games than Vancouver. So Vancouver's got a built-in advantage right off the bat when it comes to holding on to third place in the Pacific. Arizona has played 12 games in the month of February, and they've only won 5 of them. So both Calgary and Arizona, unless one of them really starts playing significantly better than they are now, will only be a threat to Vancouver if Vancouver just stops winning games entirely. If the Canucks can just maintain 500 while Markstrom is out, then they can probably stay ahead of Calgary and Arizona, considering that Calgary and Arizona are playing right around 500, actually a little worse than 500, and are not looking like they're going to change that and suddenly play significantly better, and they've played more games than Vancouver. The other possibility, of course, would be the wild card spot if they did fall out of third place, which right now the wild card spots are held by Calgary and Arizona. Other teams contending for those wild card spots would be Winnipeg, who has 69 points in 64 games, so they have 3 fewer points than Vancouver, but they've played 4 more games. And they have won 6 out of the 10 games that they've played in February. So they're moving up faster than Calgary or Arizona are. Nashville also would be a contender for a wild card spot. They have 68 points, so that's 4 fewer than Vancouver in 61 games, the same amount as Vancouver, and they've won 6 out of 11 games in February. Realistically, if things continue to go the way they're going, Winnipeg and Nashville could bump Calgary and Arizona right out. And then it would be a matter of, as long as Vancouver can hold off Calgary and Arizona for that third spot, then the wild card becomes a non-consideration. I realistically think that regardless of how long Markstrom is out, I think that's the most realistic scenario, that Vancouver ends up holding on to third place, unless Calgary or Arizona suddenly decide that they're going to start playing better. Now, Markstrom this season has played 43 games. He's 23-16-4 with a 2.75 goals against and a .918 save percentage. So his numbers are quite excellent. Thatcher Demko, who we would presume will be the starting goaltender now and take most of the starts, has played 20 games so far this year. He's 10-6-2 with a .303 goals against and a .905 save percentage. So his numbers certainly are not as good as Jacob Markstrom's. And on top of that, we've had a number of games recently where the Canucks have allowed a ridiculous amount of shots, and Markstrom has stolen wins and played fantastically. And asking Demko to do that might be a bit much, but he might have to if Vancouver can't lock down their high shot allowed total woes that they've had this year, which I'll go over those numbers in just a moment. Now, Vancouver did pick up a new backup today, Louis Domingue from New Jersey. Domingue has played 16 games this season. He's 3-8-2. Keep in mind he was playing for New Jersey. New Jersey's really been down this year, so you have to take these numbers with a bit of a grain of salt. But he's got a .379 goals against and an .882 save percentage. So that's not good. And so you're not going to, if you're a Vancouver fan, if you're the Canucks, you're not going to want to have to put the games in the hands of Louis Domingue very often. Now, I'm not saying Louis Domingue is a completely inept goaltender. And we certainly have to consider that some of his less than stellar numbers are a product of the fact that he's been playing for the New Jersey Devils. I know that recently the Devils have been better because Mackenzie Blackwood's been playing out of his mind. And even in the last game that Domingue played with the Devils was against the Blues, and he actually acquitted himself very well. He played a good game. But overall, Louis Domingue is not somebody that you're going to want to put too many games in his hands if you can avoid it. In his career, Domingue has played 138 games. He's 58-57-10 with a .304 goals against and a .904 save percentage. So certainly his numbers this year are worse than what they have been, what his career numbers are. And again, that may be reflective of the fact that he was playing for a team that just really wasn't getting it done. So let's suppose that Markstrom is out 3 to 4 weeks. Let's say 4 weeks. In the next 4 weeks, Vancouver plays 15 games. And in that time, 6 of those games are against teams that are not currently holding a wild card spot. If Demko plays 13 of those 15 games and wins 7 of them, and Domingue plays 2 and doesn't win either one of them, then Vancouver still gains 14 points, plus more if they lose any of those in overtime, right? So right now they have 72 points. If they can gain 14 more, that gets them up to 86 points, if my math is right. 14, 70, yeah, 86. Okay, so that leaves them at 86 points with 6 games to play. They still have 6 games more after that 4-week mark, okay? So it's very realistic that regardless of how many games Markstrom plays for the rest of the season, or if he comes back in 4 weeks, or if he comes back at all during the regular season or plays any games, it's very realistic that Vancouver gets to 90 points. And 90 points will probably get them a playoff spot. So I don't see this as an end of the world scenario for Vancouver. It's not good. It certainly is disconcerting. But I think that Vancouver, they already were in a good enough position with the amount of games in hand they have against most of the teams that are chasing them. And the fact that they already have, 2 to 4 points more than those teams. And it's not like Thatcher Demko is completely inept and can't possibly win a game. I mean, he is 10-6-2 in this year. So, I really think that while this is a bummer for Vancouver, and certainly a real bummer for Jacob Markstrom himself, and it might prevent any likelihood of Vancouver moving up or taking second or even winning the division, I really don't think this prevents them from staying in third place where they are now. They are going back to that shot total problem that Vancouver is having. This is really where my biggest concern lies. They're allowing 33.2 shots per game, and that is 28th in the NHL out of 31 teams. So this is a big deal. Markstrom has been able to handle that kind of shot total load game by game. I mean, he's lost some games, but he's put up some stellar performances, while facing a ridiculous amount of shots. If Vancouver can't do something to try to lock that down a little bit, shore up their defensive situation a bit, and reduce those shots per game, then it could mean that their ability to hold on to third place is a little closer and more scary than it otherwise needs to be. Now, I will say this for Vancouver, though. They are scoring 3.28 goals per game, which is 8th best in the NHL. So they're putting plenty of goals on the board. They're just going to have to make sure that they keep their goals allowed total below that, So, I mean, really with the way they're playing, they can probably afford to allow 3 goals per game most nights because they're averaging more than that. But still, you don't want to be going game by game by game, allowing 3 goals per night and just assuming you're going to outscore your negative side of your team. So hopefully Markstrom will be out a less amount of time than the 3 to 4 weeks, or the 3 to 4 weeks maximum, and then he's back, plays the last 6-7 games of the season. Hopefully for the Vancouver Canucks, Thatcher Demko can acquit himself well over these next weeks, however many it is, and get Vancouver enough wins to stay ahead of Calgary and Arizona, which honestly I believe that he will. I think that Vancouver will hold that third spot. I kind of doubt now that they'll move forward, but I think that they won't move backward either. So let me know what you think. If you're a Vancouver fan, let me know how you're feeling right now, how the news of Markstrom's injury struck you, how you feel about Vancouver picking up Louis Domingue from New Jersey. What's your confidence level in Thatcher Demko? And if you would, please hit like on this video, subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it if you would do that. Share it with your friends on your various social media platforms that you use. And we'll have some more videos coming up soon on other events that have taken place in the goaltending world around the NHL. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have yourself an awesome night. Bye now.